Hello, everybody. Looks like we are live. Welcome to another Health Coach Tip Tuesday, where we talk about tools, tips, and resources to help your health coaching business. This week, I'm joined with business mentor Jenn Malecha to talk about 2 tips to nail down your niche. Hi, Jenn. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing great. I'm just talking about the change in weather just before we popped on. And Jenn, you're in San Diego, right?
Yeah, I was trying to wear my spring colors today. I was like, oh, I'll go with a little coral to bring in some spring. Since I can't believe it's May already. It's pretty fascinating how fast this year is like flying by in so many ways.
Definitely. Every time you turn around, it's another month.
Yes, exactly. So the question is like, we're halfway through the year. Where's everybody at in their businesses as, health professionals? How is everybody doing out there? You feel like you're rising with the tide and doing well? Are you just getting started or don't know where to start? So, as we talk about 2 tips to nail your niche today, I would love for our audience members to let us know kind of where you're at with your business, like what kind of questions you have about your niche. Do you feel like you've got it nailed down, or do you feel totally like floating out there with clouds, like you have no idea what's going on?
It can be a little difficult, I mean, I think we all have an inkling of where we want to be and like who we want to attract, but then also sometimes it can be hard to market to those people. Yeah, so this week our giveaway is going to be our business tips guide, and you guys can put the word niche in the comments down below, and we'll send that to you directly. And feel free during the show to comment and let us know what's going on with you guys. What kind of niches are you looking to, market to? What kind of questions you have, and we'll go through and pick Jenn's brain about her 2 tips to really nail down your niche. So I'd love to get started.
Yeah. Well, first let's talk about like, why is it so important to niche down? So I say niche, some people say niche, potato, right? It's all the same thing here. And let's talk about why it's really important. So it's really important because when you're really clear on who your niche is, then you can more clearly communicate and actually market to them so that people know exactly what it is that you do, what problems you solve, and what it is that you have to offer, like what solutions or transformation that you can offer people, right? Like I literally have worked with some of our practitioners before, and before they niche down, they were kind of like all over the place, sharing messages about, oh, I help, people with hormone imbalances or leaky gut stuff going on, digestive issues, anxiety, depression, like kind of this jack of all trades, I do it all, which essentially in a lot of ways as practitioners we can, especially as functional diagnostic nutrition practitioners, in the way that we're trained in the Mastering Metabolic Chaos concept that Reed teaches throughout the program, we really can help anybody and everybody. And at the same time, when we look like jack of all trades, it leaves our potential client or customer feeling confused, and they're not sure on exactly what it is that we do. So it is important to be clear about this. So when we nail our niche and we create this clarity, now we can create a single clear message that really speaks to that most ideal person, which really does benefit you in your business, because now that you have this clarity, when you're sharing this clear core marketing message, you're actually going to be attracting the most ideal clients that are perfectly positioned to work with you. So these are the kinds of people that show up for their consultations and their appointments. They're not no-showing or canceling. They're the people who are also committed to the work and follow through, and therefore get the best results. And then as a result of getting the best results, they then become your best referrers and cheerleaders. So it's this whole downstream effect of when we niche in, we just ultimately get better leverage and better results out of our businesses and with our clients, right, Jess?
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful to kind of differentiate, because like you said, as FDNs and a lot of health coaches, you can help so many different types of people, but you really want to make sure that your messaging is clear so that a particular group knows that you can help them, because they all have very specific issues when you look at these different groups. And I wanted to ask you, like, if you're really interested in working with multiple different groups of people, would you maybe focus your messaging to be clear with each one of those groups differently? Or would you then say, like, you are an umbrella? Or do you feel like it might be better to just focus on one group and then maybe move on to another group later on?
Mm-hmm. I think that actually the answer to that question is one of my tips for today, is that when I like to take a non-traditional approach to niching, and because we want to focus in on who the person is, like who actually is your most ideal client or customer out there. And particularly because what we do as either if you're a health coach, if you're a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and even some cases, if you are a licensed practitioner that is looking to work across state lines or your regulations, then one of the things that's critical in being able to do this legally is not diagnosing or treating anything specifically. And that is one of the principles that Reed teaches in the course well, that also makes us really successful as FDN practitioners, is because we don't diagnose or treat anything specifically. We work with the whole person. We're looking at all of the moving pieces, right? And so this is where sometimes even when people say that they niche in on, let's say, thyroid, for example, they're actually still missing the mark because there's not enough clarity in that niche. And ultimately, we can see this in other products and services and the type of clarity around niching that they have developed, and use that as an example. Think about some of your favorite products and services. Like, I'm a huge Apple user. I've got an iPhone here. I've got an iPad here. I've got a Mac laptop. I have another iPad in my house. I've got AirPods. Like, I have an Apple Watch. So I'm like, one of their biggest fans, right? So when I look at like, how is it that Apple products speak to me? It's because I feel like they get me. Like, everything from the design and the user experience feels like it was made for me, right? Because I like to see myself as very professional. I like the clean look of the Apple products, which speak to me, the ease of use, the integration, the whole thing. So it really is speaking to me as a person, not as a condition, right? Like, if we were even trying to make a condition for Apple products, like what would it be exactly,
Yeah.
So I also think about, like, Nordstrom for me is another really great example. Like, one of the things that I love about Nordstrom is their like no hassle refund policy, because I try to be a really efficient person in my life. I don't want to like deal with hassling with refunds if I want a refund, if something didn't fit and I don't like it, So the customer service experience that I get, the type of clothes that they provide in their, store or whatnot. So all of these are speaking to us as a person, actually from a level of our personality. Like, what are our personality traits? You can also see this with, the people that you surround yourself with. Like, why do you have the friends that you have? Or why do you like the colleagues that you like? Because you, like, at some level, get each other. You understand each other. You share common values. You share common personality traits. You share like beliefs, like outlooks on life, right? And so your ideal client or your niche is going to be a reflection of you for all of these same exact reasons too. So your niche is not necessarily a condition. They can be schooling, with a condition, but more importantly, we really want to focus in on who they are as a person. And in order to figure that out, then we can look at ourselves, look at our own reflection in the mirror and see, okay, who am I as a person? What are my personality traits? What has my health journey been like? What were some of my struggles and things that I had overcome and the solutions that worked for me? And that's where we can start to pull in our niche. So Jess, I'm going to put you on the spot here for just a moment. Let's talk about who you are as a person. So like if you were to go and ask your friends and family, like to describe you, your personality traits, or the, hobbies, interests, things that you have in your life, like what would they say about you? What kind of niche are you then?
I would say that for one, I'm a very studious person. I'm always reading and I'm very educated in that way. I also like to have fun. So I play video games and I read comic books. And I love to sit out by the pool. So I like to relax a lot. And I think those are like the three big things that if you ask anybody, and they don't necessarily, you wouldn't think they would necessarily correlate to. So if you look at somebody who, sits out by the pool all day, and you wouldn't necessarily think that they're also incredibly studious, and vice versa. So I'm a little bit of a seemingly like a contradiction, but that's just shows the different facets of me, and I'm sure of many people out there as well.
Yeah, this is so fantastic because I knew about your little, comic hobby that you've got going on. And honestly, I feel like that's really unique because I haven't really talked or mentored a lot of practitioners that specifically have said, I work with like comic book lovers. So let me just ask you, like, within that comic, kind of community, what do you call yourselves? Like, what's the terminology for that? Because I'm not familiar with it.
So I identify as what you would say a nerd. Even when I used to go to comic book conventions years ago and I would dress up as characters, my cosplay character name was Nerdy Latex because I would use latex clothing. And so that's kind of what I became known as in that community for a long time. So I always say it's like very fashion forward, but nerdy at the same time.
Yeah. This is awesome. I actually love that you use the words fashion forward. Like we could even say like studious. So your niche is studious fashion forward nerds, right? Or like you could say that, your niche is professional comic book loving, leisurely types or something like that, right? Because the studious part is like you've got this professionalism to you, but on, that's your day job. Your night job is like the comic book, the comic character loving stuff. And then there's maybe the aspect of leisure that we can put in there. And so this is actually how we describe our niche, right? So there's some great descriptors for your niche. And then we talk about, so like within that niche and your personal health journey, like what were the things that you were struggling with though every single day? Like what were your frustrations that you were having that maybe other people in this realm of being studious and nerdy and in comic books are also dealing with too?
Well, I think that the sense of not feeling that people understand me or what I'm going through, or like it's pretty typical I've seen for people who are dealing with any kind of chronic condition, because I had an autoimmune condition from a very young age, and having to be on medications and all of that stuff. Like people within my age group weren't dealing with that, and I found solace in books. I found solace in comic books, and I found inspiration in those stories also. That was a huge thing for me to like see these characters overcoming things, like outstanding circumstances, and it really I think shaped my internal confidence. I wasn't getting confidence outside. I had to draw from within to get it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is so beautiful that you just shared this with us, and thank you for being vulnerable for everybody here to listen and learn, because see how the comic book aspect actually played a role in your health journey as well too. Like it was an escape for you. It was like where you could, like live in a different world and, like you said, like muster up some of this internal like strength and beauty from these characters that you were reading about, right? So think about how many in the comic book world, you know, community, think about how many other people are also doing that because they're dealing with some type of health issue, right? So we could say that your niche, again, like is that fashion forward comic book nerd who loves their leisure time, but is dealing with daily digestive issues and feels misunderstood. And on the daily digestive issues, because I know that Jess has had a history of digestive issues that she's been working and overcoming. And so see how this clearly came together to create this like perfect little niche for you of like, these people are experiencing the same thing that you went through. You're going to instantly have rapport, be able to build trust with them. You guys are dealing with common denominators in terms of what you were struggling with, your digestive issues. As a result, you feel misunderstood because you go to the doctor over and over and nobody's listening to you. Your family doesn't get it. Your friends don't get it. So you're escaping to these comic books in order to like find some kind of sense of normalcy, right? So that's how we discover our niche. And I see Mark commented here, and Mark, I think that what you said here is so great. So Mark is saying, you know, I've been working as a one-on-one personal trainer and health coach, which I was a personal trainer. That's also where I started. And since Corona, I've transitioned to online personal training. Additionally, to offer my trainings, I became an FDN practitioner, which is what I started in too. So Mark is saying that my niche with personal trainings were high performance like managers, entrepreneurs, etc., would also be niche for my FDN services. And I would say 100% here, Mark, because if there was an aspect of like you were attracting these personal training clients because of probably some common denominators that you guys have, again, like we were just sharing with Jess, you know, in terms of if we look at like high performance managers and entrepreneurs, you yourself as a personal trainer is a high performance manager, entrepreneur yourself as well. So here's where some of those common things come in. Not all personal trainers are high performing, is right. So there must be something about your personality that drives you to this peak of success, which also the clientele that you're working with kind of feel and experience the same thing too. So I would say that your FD clientele is going to be very similar. Mine was also very similar too. So my niche, you know, as an FDN practitioner, busy, health-minded professionals, because my background was in personal training. I studied fitness, nutrition, and health. Even, you know, from early on, I played sports and was always active and kind of health-minded. I also lived a very busy lifestyle. Like I was constantly like pursuing, you know, success through my career or my studies. And I always considered myself kind of like a professional of sense. Like my career was one of my biggest priorities that probably drove my health into the ground in some ways. And even now today that I work for myself, my career is very important to me. So you can see how this all comes together, and who we are is who it is that we're going to attract. And this is kind of just the law of attraction, you guys. I mean, again, look at those examples of who do you surround yourself with and why? It's because you have things in common with them. You can instantly build rapport and trust with them. And so if we apply those same principles to our marketing and our niche and our business, the same thing is going to happen, is we're going to attract and draw in those people that share those things with us too.
Most definitely. What a great like little exercise. So quick to just break it down. And I think what I got out of that is you're really looking for those common denominators between your personality across everything that you do, why you do it, and then relating that back to your niche so that you can really market to them properly. Make sure that you guys too, that you comment niche below so you can get our business tips guide. Okay, so was that all tip 1, or was that partially tip 2 also?
So that was that was the first part of tip 1, because
first part.
that was tip 1, because what we addressed is we identified kind of the description of the person, and then what are their common struggles that they're having, right? Like what is it that they're dealing with? We also now want to address what is the solution that they're actually looking for. So you have, you know, if we go back to your example, Jess, like these fashion forward, comic book loving, like leisurely nerd types that are dealing with digestive issues and feeling misunderstood. maybe they actually want something else for themselves than what you wanted though, right? And so this is where we also want to get really clear on what is the transformation that they're seeking, because we all kind of provide maybe a little bit of a different transformational experience in a sense. So Jess, we'll kind of use you as our guinea pig again. Maybe we should bring one of your guinea pigs up to be on camera. Is like, you know, when you're in the midst of your health journey, what is it that you just like woke up wishing that you had every single day? Like, what was the solution that you were ultimately looking for?
So, you know, what's funny, when I was a kid, I used to have this vision and this wish that I wanted to go to a doctor when I was older that could just do a body scan on me and find all of the things that were wrong and then fix them. And then I would just know, and it would be gone. Like, I wouldn't have to think about it every day. I wouldn't have to be worried about, did I take my medication, or am I going to have to, you know, where am I at today? So like when I go to a place, do I need to know where the bathroom's at? Like, just being hyper aware of those kinds of things. And when I look back, I'm like, wow, a child just wanting to go to a doctor to get a body scan sounds crazy. But yeah. I think it was just that wanting to be able to just relax and not have to be constantly thinking about that kind of stuff.
Tell me a little bit more about that. So wanting to like be able to relax and not having to constantly worry about that stuff in this body scan, like what would having all of that do for you, or why was it important for you?
I guess because maybe it was because I didn't think I knew what was best for me. And I always trusted that my doctors or, you know, the people around me had my best interests, or they knew more than me. Maybe that's why I became so studious in the first place, was because I never felt like anything that people did, or the advice they gave me, or the medications they gave me, they never really solved the issue, right? And I always felt like there was something off. We hear this from clients in FDN all the time. Like, my labs are normal, but I still feel off, you know, like we know. And the more that I've learned, I was right. I do know better. I just didn't know, I guess, how to define it or describe it properly, or how to work with it so that my body would work for me, not against me. And so I think that that sense of relaxation, of wanting that, really came from trusting my own intuition. I think that's probably the core of it.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool, because I feel like this plays into the comic book aspect a little bit, right? Like a lot of these comic books are like about solving a mystery or a problem, right? And so if we elaborate more on like Jess's niche, so maybe it's the fashion forward, like comic book nerd who loves their leisurely time, is dealing with daily digestive issues and feels misunderstood. And you help them to decode, you know, what's going on in their body so that they can finally relax and live their perfect comic book story. Right?
That's
so like,
perfect.
See, it kind of comes all together. Like my people, and this was my experience as an example, was like when I was going through my health stuff, like there was a point when I felt great in my body, like I felt at home in my body, and then all of a sudden there was a point where I didn't. And like what I woke up wishing that I had every single day was that I wish that I could just feel like myself again. I was like, I just want to feel like that vibrant, like, you know, sexy, like athletic woman that I have always been since childhood, you know, that I've always been that person, and I lost that somewhere. And so that is what my people want too. Like they'll come to me, and here's the thing, you guys, like they'll come to you saying the surface stuff. They'll say like, I want weight loss, right? Or I want to manage my thyroid naturally. But if we do a little bit of digging to say, okay, but what would having that do for you? Why do you want that? There is this deeper level of a solution that they're looking for. Like Jess said, I just want to be able to relax. Like dealing with digestive issues and feeling misunderstood is very like stressful on a daily basis, right? When uncomfortable in your body, I just wanted to feel at home in my body as well too. And so this is the second part of the niching piece. The tip number 2 is really dialing into what is is the problem that you're solving for them? What is the transformation that you're providing, essentially? So we describe the person in terms of, you know, their personality traits, what are they struggling with, and then we also are going to pinpoint the transformation or the solution that they're looking for. So I see I got a couple comments here, and Mark chimed back in, says, thanks for the feedback. I have another question. You mentioned combining your niche with your struggles. I actually never had any health struggles. I just love the topic and have been passionate about health and fitness ever since. So Mark, this is where like we can use our passion and purposes. This is an exercise that I have people go through when they do mentoring with me, is like really journaling out like what is your passion and purpose. We can derive from that to plug this into your niche. And what we're kind of, coming up here with actually your elevator pitch, which is what clearly defines, who your niche is and what it is that you do essentially. And so we can maybe pull pieces from that. Or it doesn't always have to be a health struggle. Maybe simply like for you, Mark, is that maybe what comes into play with this is that you've always just, had an innate desire to perform at your best, which if you're working with some of these high level like CEO, manager, entrepreneur types, maybe they don't all have to have a health struggle, but what they do know, what they realize is happening maybe is that like, I want to perform higher at a higher level. I want to get that next level promotion. I want to like start that next company. And in order to do that, I need more energy, or I need to boost my health. I need a better mindset. Like these are the things that start to come up, right? So these are some of the areas that might come up for you. Like maybe your niche is something like, I help performing managers and entrepreneurs who are looking for that next level of performance physically and mentally to dive deeper into, all the moving pieces of their health puzzle so that they can, kick ass at life or something like that, right? So they can crush life, or they can crush their job, or they can get that next thing. So it doesn't always have to be a health struggle, guys. There are people out there that aren't dealing necessarily with, chronic related health struggles like we tend to talk about so frequently. They're just wanting to pursue like, what is the best version of me possible, right? Like those people exist out there too.
Oh yeah. I think when I was going through FDN, one of the things that I found super interesting about going through this whole process, and then I went through your business mentoring course that you have. And what I loved was, it doesn't, we get so caught up in the minutia because if you do have health issues, you want to, bring that to light. But sometimes maybe it's just about being better. Maybe it's just about achieving a goal, and it doesn't have to be so in the weeds of that kind of stuff. So I love that.
Cool. Well, that kind of wraps up those 2 tips for everybody. So I hope that was really helpful. I love that Mark kind of played along with us, and thank you, Jess, for being vulnerable and like sharing your story as well too. Because I think that when we share these practical kind of examples, it helps to paint the picture of what it is that we're talking about for sure.
Oh yeah, and I love that. I'm happy to be vulnerable with people. I think that we need to all be more vulnerable, just as a group. But yes, thank you so much today for joining us, Jen. This has been Jenn Malecha, our FDN Business Mentor. Today was Health Coach Tip Tuesday, where we talk about tools, tips, and resources that will help your health coaching business. I hope that you guys were able to take some of these amazing tips. Make sure you come back and watch the replay. And there were 2 tips to nail down your niche. And you can drop the word niche below to get our business tip guide. All right, well, I think that's it for today. We'll be back next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and Jen will be back with us in June, right?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. I'll see you next week.